Say you're in a meeting and someone says, let's circle back to ensure alignment so we can check the KPIs across all of our products. And everyone just nods and you're thinking, what did he just say? Corporate jargon. It's everywhere. Some people love it, some people hate it. Most of us, we just tolerate it. Jargon isn't always bad, though it can feel like that. The real problem is when jargon stops making things faster and starts making them foggier. If you're new to the channel, my name is David Burkus, and I study high-performing teams and work with leaders to build their best team ever. Work dynamics and jargon are constantly changing. And if you want to know what you need to level up as a leader and to build your best team ever, then subscribe to the channel, or better yet, join our email newsletter community. Link in the video description below. All right, let's get into it. Language is supposed to create clarity. It's supposed to connect people. It's supposed to help us make decisions. But in a lot of workplaces, jargon does the opposite. It confuses, it slows down, it even creates distance between teams and even individuals on the same team. Anthropologist David Graeber, author of Bullshit Jobs. Can we say bullshit jobs on YouTube? Anyway, Graeber argued that in many organizations, there are layers of meaningless work and meaningless words that create the illusion of productivity. He called it managerial feudalism, that basically managers kind of expand their scope by hiring people to do work that maybe could be done by a lot fewer people just to be able to say that they have more power or the illusion of power. And words kind of work the same way. Oftentimes we create new jargon just to make the work sound more technical, more complex, just so that we can look smarter and more essential to the organization. Basically, the more complex the words, the harder it is to question the work. But the work sounds official, right? But here's the twist. Jargon isn't always a villain. Research on corporate communication shows that organizations adopt specialized language to gain legitimacy. They signal their expertise, their professionalism, how well they fit inside of industry norms. If you're a doctor or an engineer or a pilot, technical jargon actually saves time and prevents mistakes because everybody knows specifically what those words mean. Interestingly though, research has also shown that managers who use very little jargon or none at all found positive responses and grew trust among employees. So externally, it has benefits, but internally, it has headaches. The trouble comes when we drag that same internal language into communications where it doesn't belong, like cross-functional team meetings or all-hands summits or client presentations. That's when jargon stops being a shortcut and starts being a barrier. So the problem isn't that jargon exists. The main problem is that we forget who it's for. Before you use a term like OKRs or value prop, pause for a second and ask yourself, does everybody know what we're talking about? Inside your core team, it's fine. It really does speed things up. But if everybody on the product team knows MVP stands for minimum viable product and everyone outside of them thinks maybe it stands for most valuable player, that's going to cause some confusion. I found this out when my wife was in medical school and I learned that SOB in medicine stands for shortness of breath and not, well, you and I are probably both thinking the same thing. And look, that version's funny, but we do it in organizations all the time. Marketing talks about demand gen and funnels, while IT talks about DNS propagation, and finance is spouting off about run rates and burn, and HR wants everybody to 360. The problem isn't that any of these terms are wrong, they're just context specific. And when people don't know what those terms mean, they do one of two things. They smile and nod and make a mental note to look it up later so they don't look stupid in the moment, or they stop listening entirely because they feel excluded. Here's the mindset shift. Assume at least one person in the room is hearing this term for the first time. Maybe they're a new hire or a new member of the team, or maybe they're from a different department. And so when they hear that acronym, they think it stands for something completely different. Apparently in government, SOB stands for Senate Office Building, although it might still stand for what you and I think it stands for. The best communicators, the best leaders meet people where they are. They don't talk down to people, and they make sure that nobody feels left behind. Clarity is kindness. And whether you're leading a team or even just sending an email, you're doing more than just transmitting information. You're also shaping how people feel about the work. And nothing slows down momentum on a team more than sending a message that everyone has to reread 3 times to fully understand what you meant. Nowadays, technology has made communication more informal. We have emojis and GIFs and slang. And while you probably shouldn't send an email to the board of directors with a bunch of cat memes in them, you can make your communication sound more conversational. Here's the difference. We'll leverage our core competencies to achieve stakeholder alignment. Or here's how we're using our strengths to meet what our stakeholders need. Which one would you rather read? Clarity doesn't just make things easier to read, it builds trust. When people don't feel like they have to decode every piece of your message, they can focus on your message, and they feel like you're respecting their time by sharing it that way. So when in doubt, ask yourself, could a smart, motivated outsider understand this? Would I say this out loud in a conversation? Can I cut any words without losing meaning? Look, nobody has ever complained that a message was too clear, or too short for that matter. Sometimes jargon isn't just confusing, it's covering something up. In many workplaces, layers of meaningless work and meaningless words exist to create the illusion of being productive. And one of the easiest ways to spot these is the language being used. If you've ever heard a sentence that sounds impressive but doesn't actually mean anything, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the corporate equivalent of smoke and mirrors. Phrases like, we're architecting... I should stop laughing before I start talking. We're architecting a holistic transformation framework to unlock cross-functional synergies. Or, we're ideating on a paradigm shift to optimize next-gen scalability. They sound fancy, but what is actually happening? Probably not much. If you can decode those, do me a favor, let me know. Put them in the comments what you think those mean. That's why it's so important to challenge the fake complexity. If you hear somebody spout off a sentence like that, feel free to just ask, okay, what does that actually mean? Or if you're feeling really bold, can you give me an example? It's not rude, it's responsible. And obviously you want to read the room here and you don't want to pull any of these tricks on somebody who's significantly higher up in the hierarchy than you. But you do want to force clarity. Hopefully the person actually can explain it and now you've made sure that everyone in the room understands. Or they can't and you've just revealed that there's probably not much there. This doesn't just save time, it saves your team from wasting energy on things that shouldn't be done in the first place. Graeber argues that one of the reasons unnecessary jobs and unnecessary work exists is that nobody has the courage to call it out. No one stands up and says, hey, the emperor has no clothes. And so as a result, we just keep piling on the jargon to keep hiding the unnecessary work. As a manager, you set the tone. If you're willing to call out jargon and say, hey, let's simplify that, then everybody else feels that they can as well. And at the end, truly meaningful work doesn't need to hide behind layers of jargon. It speaks for itself. And look, I know we're fighting a difficult battle against these cringe jargon terms, but I also know that they're more likely to creep up in times of uncertainty. So if you're fighting jargon and you're leading your team through uncertainty, you're going to want to check out this video here on how to lead your team through a crisis of uncertainty.